Hello, it's Keith here, and this is lesson 17 of the simple series of my 6502 assembly programming tutorials. We're going to be adding joystick control to the simple series bitmap example on the SNES this time. Last time we had a little smiley face done with the tar map. This time we're going to get it moving around the screen, and so we will be able to do a bit more with it, hopefully. Okay, well, let's go over to today's example and let's see it in action. Okay, if I just fire this example up here on the SNES, where is it? There's the SNES, and I will actually be controlling it with cursor keys today, just for convenience, but we're actually emulating a joystick through our emulator. You can see our smiley moves around the screen, but it doesn't go off the screen. We've got some detection to check if we're at the boundaries of the screen here. So there we go. We've got a nice simple starting point that maybe you could make a little game out of. Just a, as I say, very simple example here. Now, I'm going to assume you've got some experience with the Super Nintendo already. I'm hoping you'll have seen my bitmap example in the previous super simple example. We're going to skip over the code that was covered there. So if you've not seen that, then once you've watched this example, please have a look at that bitmap drawing example for the rest of the code, because I don't want to repeat myself and cover all the parts I covered before in there. Okay, so how does this work? Well, first we've got our definition of some temporary registers here in the 0 page. I tend to simulate Z80 registers for when I need variables for things. We've got some new definitions though, an X and Y position, that's the current smiley location, and a backup copy of the last position for relocating the character when they've gone off the screen. Here we've got our screen initialization functions. We covered all of those before, so I'm not going to go over those again. Now, what we're doing here is we're defining the tiles in the pattern data that make up the graphics of this game. Now, the game graphics, if we can call this a game, the graphics are simple. We've got our smiley face here, and we've got a second tile which is a blank. Now, the main one is tile number 128 and the blank one is 129. So we use 128 to show our current position and 129 to remove the last position. So that's how we're going to do things. Now, there's two versions of our previous drawing routine here. One that shows the smiley and one that shows the blank sprite. This code is basically the same as the previous example, which is why we're not going to cover it again. And there's some other functions here for calculating memory locations and transferring bitmap data, waiting for VBlank and so on. Again, we're not going to cover those. They were in the last episode, so please take a look at those. The new part of the code for today is this read controls routine, which will read in the direction keys of the joypad. Now, the way that they work on the Super Nintendo is we have to send a strobe to the joypad hardware, and that tells the hardware to start sending the data. So what we have to do is we have to write a 1 to 4016 and then a 0 to 4016. And then we can do 8 reads from that address, and each of those reads will get 1 bit which will represent one of the directions. So what we're doing is we're shifting bit 0 out into the carry and then rotating it into ZH, getting a different direction each time here. And these are the directions we get in. And so those will end up being in the ZH register here. Okay, so that's how we're getting in our joystick, and that's how we're getting our graphics on the screen. So we've got our patterns defined here, and this is the start of our new code. First, we're setting a starting X and Y position, and then what we're going to do is first we're going to skip over the joystick routine. The joystick routine is waiting for a key to be pressed and then starting the drawing routine once that key's been pressed, but that would mean that the first time we'd never shown the starting position of the player. So the very first time we skip over this and just give a dummy value to the joystick routine so that the joystick direction processing won't have any effect. So that's what we do here. Now this is our main loop where we're reading in from the joystick and waiting for a value. This part will back up the last position of the player. This is going to be needed later if the player's tried to go off the screen. And then we're blanking off the old position of the player. Next, what we're doing is we're processing each of the directions. You can see we're looking at each bit which relates to the joystick direction in ZH, which was read in by the read controls routine. And then we're changing the X and Y registers accordingly, which have the current position of the player in them, just here. So these are moving the player around as needed by the directions the user is pressing, and then we're storing the new values in just here. Now the top left corner of our screen is 0, 0. If you go below 0, of course, you will wrap around back to 255. So we don't need to check the top boundaries of our screen, we just need to check the bottom ones. So that's what we're doing here. We're comparing to 32, the right boundary, and 28, the bottom boundary. And if they've gone over those values, then we need to reset our position. And we do that with those backed up values that we took earlier, just here. So that's what we're doing. Now, whatever happens though, we're going to get here and we're going to be in a position where we want to draw the player back to the screen. So that's what we're doing with our draw player routine, which, as I said before, is basically a modified version of the smiley code that we saw in the bitmap example. And then finally, we've just got a simple delay here. We've got a pause routine. Where is it? There it is. It's just a very simple delay, just so we don't move around too quickly. If you want to speed things up, you can. If you want to slow them down, you can. Now, that's really all there is to it. As I say, there's a lot of code in there relating to graphics. It's all covered in my bitmap example, so please go and take a look at that. That's really all there is to it. Now, we're going to be seeing something pretty similar to this again in the future, because when I did this example in the Z80 series, I then converted it into a little game which I called YQuest, and we're going to do the same on the Super Nintendo. So you're going to see this little example expanded out to be something resembling a decent game, hopefully. Not an amazing game, but a game all the same. And I think that game's the kind of standard that you should be aiming for as a beginner if you're just learning assembly. So hopefully you'll stick around for that. Anyway, if you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. Liking my videos does help because YouTube ranks videos by how many people like them. So if you like this video, then hopefully it'll be recommended to someone else who may like it as well. Whatever you do though, I wish you all the best in whatever creative projects you're doing. I hope you have a lot of fun with the Super Nintendo. Thanks for watching today and goodbye.